Aba, Kodoe.
Yabogodu, Toshina. Ashidele, Kyang Kuzudawimbe.
Devo, Milarepa, Homa, Loma Chickeni, Corantation, Tam the day, any Loma Chicken, Chuna Deo in base. Churakan Alakija to Anaji in Tam the day, the cups and Tapona, Deo in base, Ya, Loma Kijet, any Coranke, my Deo in this. And the Devo in Dante, Candice Deo in Siate, any Devo in Siate, any good. Devo took Siachi can go chicks on your. Any Pabla, a Dean la, and it was a Dean Kaya Melika, Zak Dean the bed on the house. And in Kangbala, Mega Mazuli, Ramsonga Tapukte, Pemasi de on the house. Any Kazela, Bipa Kazele, Mewa, any Ranjing Kaze Pena, Tatangasi sa, netter. Oh, that they pay Shimbo, they pay de on those. Any Julula, Zubotela, any Zatang, Long Tang, Tilela Soba, take any Salon Tilek, any Zubola, Pemasi de on those. Any Numo to some Tatsalike, Numo to some Metsalike, they Tatsalike Chala, Zatawata, Long Tawa, Tamo, any Tili Tamo, Zatamo. Tilitamo, long tamo, they song on the journey, the Zane, any they don't go talk by she Julie Jane. And they won't do Siake. Chura deo imbesi, 30, the Zane, not deo in Siake. Broke Tamba Gorson Yuri, Shavlola Dean the deo on those. Kambala tapu the deo on those. Kalala, any Saput, pay deo on those. Any Julula, Salon Tile. Any tape must be on those, Yamlink Tony. The Jimba so Takarena, church so that in your that and the Mambo song you that count that broke Tamba song you and a chatan tingamado. All day that I am 10 he chama song day. I am quit devoto Dawachigla and some of the you. Any Gambani take and so in dollar Kundogo, Lapani take a Kalazo, and a yopo Gongla boom me all like yo me. Any Mchang, any pay deono.
So, Rinpoche asked me if I could hear well. I said yes. And I said, how are you? And then Rinpoche said, this happened once to the great Tibetan yogi Milarepa, as he was in his cave, that somebody asked him, how are you? You know, and he proceeded, he said, I'm fine. I'm fine. And then the person asked, well, how are you fine? And he proceeded to sing a spiritual song, a doha, with 6 ways that he was fine. He said, for one thing, no, I'm fine because I have no cushion. I have this dirt, you know, this ground that I'm sitting on, which is fine. You know, it's really nice. Says, I have a nice place here, this cave, you know, it wasn't made by human hands, you know, so it's very nice. It's this cave. And as for food, I'm fine. I have no food, you know, except for grass, like these nettles that I pick and eat. And then he says, as for this illusory body, I'm really fine because my channels, winds and drops are all flowing smoothly. And Rinpoche says, I'm not sure I remember all 6 of them. Also, my Dharma is fine because my channels, drops and winds are operating well. I've manifested a subtle mind. And so I'm extremely fine. But so Rinpoche says, well, no, it's not like exactly like that for me, you know, in my retreat, but still, you know, having now 1 month that I'm going to be having a retreat and can make my own food, you know, I have no boss who's telling me what to do. I'm by myself. I can do whatever I want. So it says, I'm fine in my retreat too.
So you forget very important things. I have 4 attendants. 4
Oh,
I
oh
don't say
yes,
this.
yes, 4.
I just make
Yes.
4 attendants, 2 hands, 2 legs. 2 legs take me go to the beach. 2 hands that make the food for me.
So I'm perfectly fine. You got that right. Yeah, I have 4 attendants, my 2 hands and my 2 feet.
All so that ring to Yami Tapun Zebe, and the Lamcho in Chintuate, and the method the Marshia ins.
So we'll be continuing on with these instructions on the Precious Garland of the Supreme Path by the incomparable Gampopa.
Hindu Tani, and the Chirana Bakia, and the Dodging Changi, in the Rebeki there. And the Telo, Naro, Mapa, Mela, Gampopa, Rembeki, the Lama Jubala, Sova Tapshos, and the Ngaki and the Sin the Sovan Devins.
So I'll make a prayer to the lineage, and you likewise please make prayers to the lineage from Vajradhar to Mahasiddha Tilopa, the Pandit Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Gampopa.
Sanje Tam Jejong over Dancing Kurajam Chapta, cutting Somba me Bebankon, Dinjila Madam Bishop Jeder, Tamami Bala, Gover of the day, Kupesan, Sashin Japsenjo, Jesenjala Baranze, so Namda Chutum, Samesajela, Dinsin Bamir along with Benzin, Shiram Yede, no age you go, Sara, Tumjo, Tokunda Begile, so. Nido Jimbe Paya Liman de Lord Jimbe Jugun Denise at the Bajimbe Jimdo Jian de Losa Jimbe Shalang San Nintu Jimbe Kudazine Jia Gabje Jimbe Lamani Baranze Jimbe de Bejan Sinze Areba Jimbe Shalang San Tiba Jimbe Ring Choyong Se Saja Jimbe Dobang de Juran Tule Jimbong Hadanyam Baradar Ningum Jimbe Jamla Sorwan de Jizban Kalan Chirab Jinkoroje, Zebe Dondr Zelin Abo, Jervetimba Kone Sanzebe, Kajurumbo Chilangu Sain Sai, Badindo Jinchaware Kunchabda Lama Kalma Bai, Jikore Kunje Jungne Siya Bamjur Yedan Namjuruma, Tele Kunje Sibo Wanje, Chijong Bichi Jimdala. Namjurje Bendu Dondami Tunje Jongwan. Jambara Dorjing, Allah, one Jurja, Lord Rebellion, Durjidon, the Jinjam Soron, Zonzi Beji, Pomchon Shana, Bemon, Gusan, Pardinzavala Maru, Moji, Daka Jurbe Mediola, Katin Jimbe Gone, Jizon de, Goson Tujang, the Zada, Yonde Sanje, Kundanyam Nayan, Gadin Sanje, Gome, Labango. Davila Menamla Sovande, Dakundo Valona, Chuse, Kanda Soji, Dongenji Dina, the Shehomara Bagan Soda, the Beju Jenjabej, Timbani de Badam Jende, Namoya, Dambala, Gidalo, the Jinge, that Americanam, the Loaco, Dagi Samba, Pamjege, the Dagi Chuti, on the 마준도와 남건 타다냠베 심지 탐지 시제 동안 타달레 저때 남들 tinje dewa laname bayanda bazo basanji ko marum bochi tni jene jang thobarsa tade ji de tambe chu samon de ni chujin de sine nyamse lambar jio nyamba gone sinchar.
O benevolent root guru, who is in essence all Buddhas of the past, present, and future, with great devotion I prostrate to you and go for refuge to you with my body, speech, and mind. Please grant your blessings to be cared for by you inseparably in this lifetime and all of my future lives. clean ground of pure ethical discipline, beautified by mountains of unfathomable samadhi, illuminating all things with wisdom light of the sun and moon, Supreme Buddha who accomplishes the welfare of all, please bestow virtue and goodness. Your mandala expanding throughout space in knowledge of all things, beautiful thousandfold light striking the lands of trainees, fully illuminating all of Buddha's teachings in their entirety. With devotion, I prostrate to the great jewel of the Kagyu. O glorious and precious root guru, please take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me in your great kindness. Please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind, equal to all Buddhas in qualities of realization, yet surpassing all Buddhas in kindness to me. I pray at the feet of my root guru, O protector, please turn the minds of myself and all beings towards the Dharma. All you have become disciples of the Sagatas, those gone to bliss, throughout the billions of worlds of the 10 directions, all of you who wish to hear the Dharma raining down here and now, may you come here. Namo, in languages of Devas, Nagas, and Yakshas, languages of Kumbhandas and human beings, in the sounds of whatever beings exist, in every language, I shall teach the Dharma. Please listen well with the motivation of bodhicitta, thinking all mother sentient beings equal to the extent of space must by all means attain unexcelled eternal bliss of perfect, complete Buddhahood. To accomplish this, I shall listen carefully without distraction to the Mahayana teachings being given here and put them into practice.
Oh, dadela kanji simbarsawe chujiyen ani nyami tapor bochi. Ani hacha za chimbo, hacha slab chimbo. Dan je ya jo ke ni tingju. Ani lam chori chinchwa se tate ma shuari.
So this subject, Precious Garland of the Supreme Path, that we'll be continuing with, is extremely precious, very blessed teaching.
Ni du tane nyami tapor bochi khrange kapte di. Ani arjin dang lam chori chinchwa den je chali kapsh. Ta maumba shirang cho ngala man chewa ina, ngala man chewa kansa nam any Harjin Tang, Lamchuri Chinchuan, Dila, Pisam Seva Ina, and it can't sang Atang Chivata and Chipper Mays. All the Nijis.
And at the time that Gampopa was composing this text, he said, you who in the future have not met me, if you encounter my writings, my teachings of the jewel garland of liberation, or this teaching such as this one, the Supreme Precious Garland of the Supreme Path, it will be just the same as meeting me.
Ngabja Tamara Jipana, Mani Yigis. Main Yambe, Yi Pilatilla Kubati. You might not double cups. Any Sanji Jomdi the Kong, and in some sana, you get a pitchak or the Nichis Pevons. And you love what the Yami Tapurum Bochika, Mahomba, Matamachiva, you know, in there. Any mark a good tripper, soon good tripper, took you tripper, nine stone day. And then Yami Tabo Chipa Maris, Sanjigat and the stone.
And it was not only Gampopa who said something to this effect. Our historical Buddha also said, at the time in the future of degeneration, in the time of the last 500 years, the decline of the teachings, that I myself will appear in the form of scriptures. So not only did Gampopa say that when you encounter my teachings, it will be the same as meeting me in the body, speech, and mind. Buddha Shakyamuni also said the same thing.
Ranzo Yapochi Sama Tawaina, Pe Kawazambori, Tunam Chimbori.
So if we think about this, we're really so fortunate. We have great merit to be able to meet with these teachings.
Yatang around to mail lutin the Nipa Hak mail lutin the Toba Hajan Kamoins, Tambotilla, Kawa Tambotilla, mail lutin the Nipa Hajan Kawais, Tambote, Nibatilla, Sanji Timbat and Jarate, Hateleja Hajan Kamoins. Timbatilla, and it gave a sheen set the Dimbachin Chewate, the Leja Hajan Kamoins. In the Yibatilla, as it gave a sheen Yabotin Chenayang. Any stone don't Raoji. When at the rank of the papa and a lamchor in Chintawaji Shaki, did that ten Rao. Stone said the dimba, didn't you say the dimba, Juba Manyamba, Salavioa. When the jig song, young she had the Hajakawa Zambois. What the song was?
So first of all, just to obtain a precious human life is extremely difficult to come by. But on top of that, to meet with Buddha's teachings is even more rare and difficult. And with that, to encounter a qualified teacher is even more rare and difficult. And even if you meet a qualified teacher, to encounter teachings such as this precious garland of the supreme path, which has intact blessings and unbroken lineage, and such a precious teaching as this is even more rare and difficult. So we have 4 levels of extremely rare difficulty to have encountered these teachings in these circumstances.
Haja Lamani Barkawa Tedin James Shaki Marda, Neti Tisamotang Shaki Mare. Young toning at Chindotang Tenderi Jas. And this is some of Yawaji Tawaina, Mail Lutini Barkawa, Sanjitimban Jawakawa, Tinani Tipachi Begavishin and Tibarkawa. And it Tipachi Begavishin is the Nike Shane, and it's Juba Manyan Bakasunchu, then this year the Hajakawa, the Richard Secretary Bato, the Rain Ake. So
I'm speaking in general here, not that I am such an extremely qualified teacher, but just in general to have attained a precious human life, to have met with Buddha's teachings, to meet with a qualified teacher of the Mahayana, great way teachings of Buddha, and from them to be able to receive a teaching in which the lineage has not declined, but which the blessings are intact, is extremely fortunate and blessed. But I don't mean to say, and please don't think that I'm saying that I am a perfectly qualified teacher. So the main point here is in thinking about how rare and fortunate I am is to feel great joy in yourself to be able to be here now.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's only the shit. Any Adela music chutela, Teta Teta, Kondoshiba Nanjin, Yami Takunze Yali. Any spares and lap chimbo and the chirite, that thing we look chute, Shutankan the Chichi, Jerumbo chicken and the song yuri. Shoot Chimbo in be machoke, Anza Tipachimbo in go song yuri. Shoot it, Takwa Rachel, Salap Chimbori, Tipachimborite. Chunyamlin sinking, Ganzate, shoot data with you, nature and tune daily chicken, watchimbo. Samba Jachiva Tony, some of Dhamma Shiva Ina. Shuking Arctic watchimbo in the Gaza told Telekumarawa. Gaza Rani took watchimbo, nature, Yan Rone, shoot a Telingo Yorwa. Or the day the Tane, Jirumbo Chica, shoot the watchimbo in being choke, Gaza took watchimbo test to go, Suyate, Jim Senior.
And as precious and rare as these teachings of the precious garland of the Supreme Path are, the preparatory practice with which we approach these teachings is even more important. As Je Rinpoche, Je Tsongkhapa said, it's not enough for the teachings to be of the Mahayana. The person must be of the Mahayana. So even if the teachings are of the great way, Bodhisattva ideal of the Buddha's teachings, if the person themselves does not have that kind of motivation or intention, does not embody that, then it's not really Mahayana teaching. So more important even than the teachings being of the Mahayana is that the person himself generate the very vast motivation to benefit all beings throughout space through the attainment of enlightenment is necessary for the actual practice to be that of the Mahayana. So we've come to the 17th set of teachings, list in these teachings, which are the 10 things that are of no benefit.
Carpevita, Kangzang Kawachi, Nichi, Kene, Zikang, Chivan number, Chikpurun Roshin, Royang, Gondumbe, Pibami. Buddha Taola, Sambesim, Upo Chetamship, Hojang, Chivitis, Pinto, Pichijam, maybe Pibami. Neither Topola, they don't get Pinzindang, or some Nichi Sejang, Rang Shivan number, Chipur Romid and Pibami. Buddha Tao Maya, Matape, Bagi Jimbung, Dojang, Dorangibe, Pimbami. Chinday, Tunda, Subju, Ngaritan, Letablan Beto, Jinis, Sejang, Rang Chivan number, Nathan Drava, Timid and Rove, Pimbami. Epe Chugorshuk, Chuchi Machina, Chuchi is on the Drave, Josip, Pimbami. Tusam Lojang, Jinichi, Shijang, Yamsa Malana, Shekar, Lam the Chijimibe, Pimbami. Give Shini Tamba Trong the Yoring, Dejang, Rangla Tegumina, Goma Yonti, the Salam Mongove, Pimbami. Then Pimbami Chuchu Yins.
These are the 10 things of no benefit. Since no matter how much service and attention you pay to your illusory body, it is impermanent and certain to be destroyed. There's no benefit. Since no matter how much greed and avarice you have for possessions and wealth, you will die naked and with empty hands. There is no benefit. Since no matter how much trouble you go to in the construction of castles and mansions, you will die alone and your corpse will be put out the door. There's no benefit. Since no matter how many things you lovingly give your children, nephews, and nieces, on the day of your death, they will not have an instant's power to help you. There's no benefit. Since no matter how much attention and concern you lavish on family and friends, you will die alone without their company. There's no benefit. Since even if you have many children, nephews, and nieces, they are impermanent, and it is therefore certain that the things you give them will be abandoned. There's no benefit. Since no matter how much effort you put into the acquisition of property and authority and its execution, on the day of your death, your connection with your region will cease. There is no benefit. Since having entered the gate of Dharma through faith, if you do not conduct yourself in accordance with Dharma, it will cause lower migrations. There is no benefit. Since no matter how much Dharma you know, having trained your mind in hearing and reflection, if it is not practiced, you will have nothing by which to take death onto the path. There will be no benefit. Since even if you remain for a long time in the presence of a holy teacher, if you have no faith and respect, you will not receive his qualities or blessing. There is no benefit. Those are the 10 things of no benefit.
Yeah, Adela Tambo, Jumulula, Ninkortang, Sonyori, Jumulula, Ninkortang, Siateke, Yatang Arangso, Matsin de Zilesum, Ranga Yin, Peta Suinayang, Navia Junde, Naranju Sambala, Muzupong de Nangomati, and that Tashi Sevak Zupong, Naranju to put Nangomai, Sabachik, Dindolenzine. Ngai Sabadin Lenzi. Sanji Jomdin de Sanji Songan, Kareson Yurisitane, Kalmar Rabrip, Marmetang, Juma Sepa, Chuvertang, Malam Lotang, Jin Tawe, Duzi Chunam, Peter Ta Son. Juma Pe Jagatoni, Dimbe Madrupa, Pe Jagatoni Tina Kagyu. Dimbe Madrupa, Rangu Dimbe Madrupa. Juma Serpa Churatang Malam Lotang Tin Tawe the Zechina de Tapas. Tati Mambo Shokumado, Tati Chatang Majona de Sarisaba, the Juma Pe Jet, Juma naturality, Peter Asona, Sikra Asona Churan Town. Juma Serpa
Nala Yuram.
Churan how the Nejima Song Yana, Tati Juma Lula Song, Tambo Nine. The Jumelu in Samba, the Melanco Lu in Samba, the Trubak and Nawagan Lu in Samba chick. Kamba de Juman Kamba, Zupon de Juma Sena, Medimba, Koranturiawa. The Nichik Lemato, Musutupa me bachi, or the Nichi in Samba chick. Aqua regular sinner you are ina, Niti Kangat and check you marry. Amboti sexuna.
So that first point, since no matter how much service and attention you pay to your illusory body, it is impermanent and certain to be destroyed. There's no benefit. So no matter who we are, our tendency is to really feel that our body is us. You know, we grasp our body as truly existent and feel that it is our true, identity. However, Buddha said that we should not view compounded things like that. He said, stars, twinkling stars, blurred vision, butter lamps, illusion, dew and bubbles, dreams, lightning and clouds. Thus view composite things. So he gave 8 examples of how things are illusory, like a dream, saying that none of this is truly existent. Our body, the place where we live, it's all illusory. The metaphor of an illusion is to illustrate the point that it's not real. It's not truly existent. And if we can maintain an attitude like that about our body and phenomena, their illusory nature, then they won't bring problems for us, the same as if we grasp them as truly existent.
That's all. Ninkortang. The ring did any Jumililla, Ninkorta, Rumbrotang, any Magatura Tayatang, any Karnichik Seva inayang, any could Jumilin Jumilary, Tambo Jumilary, Tambo Medimba Jumilary, Nibak Tony, I see debate by inayang, Matabari. When a trunk mula, the Jumilu Mari, Naka Lin Sabachi Tapan Jinde and Yamachi Lurang supported Shenrogari, matapari, jing rokari, then Juran rokari, then the Chani, matapari. Jumsi telatine, then the Jumelilla Hinkersene, the Tolani, Angato, Otate Tambotesona.
So, whatever service, attention we pay to our body, how much praise is heaped upon it by others, it really serves no purpose. Even if we can't maintain this real understanding of its illusory, dreamlike nature, even if we grasp it as true, we can still think about its impermanence and see how it's going to disintegrate. It's not going to be here. And so what is the point of heaping attention on it and praising it and so on?
Yaboji Samla Tawayina, Arantu Metsete, May Metsete, Zupon Dikichet, your poor Jogdevana, Chagadoa. Yaboji Samla Tawayina, Yaboji Samla Tana, Lord, not the Pane. Nimar Rela, Zupon Diche, the Samla Kati Tangado. Nimar Rina, Zupon Diche, the Kalakati Sagado. Kalat Gasamari, Kala Shimbo Chanchang, decent drink Mandarinani. At the Dogo, the Chane. Zubon diche the ngarang choke. A metsi kambo la korang yopo yona da chila. Zubo korang chi the malawachi. Zubon diche the any rang la chapa da. Zubon diche the di wang any yela dawa shedang. Any di wang sim tuba, sim magawa, sim machiwa. Sa ma the zubon diche the rindoa.
And if we think really precisely about it, in this life, we're like a slave to our body. We're a servant to our body. We have to do all these things for it, take care of it, clothe it, feed it, and not just any food, but delicious food. If any time, the food is not very pleasing, then we have to get better food. And based on this attitude towards our body, then we develop attachment to it and have to defend it from others who we perceive as enemies, and develop anger towards others. So much that we do is servant, being a servant, a slave to this body that we have.
Dharma gan siwa. Otina let the chitiri. Hovis hola tunch, Lambachula tuna, carpet on chair ante, tarring tender meadows. Authenticity. That thing when they young, and to Zupon diche the Zupon Delan Yamara Kalakati godo. Kalakati putan yapot to Takala. Dina yin trunk same la Kalate you. Same color caredi, same color thing, I should other color the money, same color, same Koran ship de la Jaya, same Koran la Gom Jaya, same Koran la Tajong Sia, same Dami la Patang, da the job Mogoate, Hachan Chipanzi da the zone, da the Jagoang, Oma Kare, but Hama watch it, the Dami la Pat Yok. Oh, the young to us.
Gonda Rinpoche, Dharma Gondi and the Kagyu, the suggest she did so Yankee Surana.
Always hold a tun, ambitula tuna, Harpetonche ante, Harrington meadows.
So Rinpoche is quoting from his Dharma Gong, his own composition. He says, we are always striving for samsaric things. If we would put some effort into holy Dharma, the city of liberation is not so far away. Then he Rinpoche Gonda di Korlagarisumbe.
Oh, pay, I would say that about the jets at the young lads.
And the end, Jesa, in knitting all the real Gagar.
Like ba, this Naranto Yabuji Samo Tawaina Zubon Dilla Marilla Tusumla, Hala Shimriship set, to Lon Jam Jam set Gung, Bear Tajong Yabusi, D. Ched, Bear not the chicken was. That Tina is similar Chiki Yomari, similar double Jackie Yomari, similar Karichigori, similar Kalasika and Tegomari, same Korang Shibdeleja, same Korang Lati, Salekate Gom Jab, same Korang La Tachongche. And they said they were in the same take Deva take you, Zupon take Deva takers, Munek Deva to take the same call. Matu Sitante, Dapo Jam Mago at it, Dapo Jab. Dapo Ja Goa sim de Dapo Jam Mashua. You Yawana, or the Rindo.
So along the lines of this verse, we pay so much attention to this body, taking care of it, feeding it, clothing it, treating it so with such care, and yet that disintegrates. It serves no purpose in the end. Whereas if we would take care of our mind, it would have very different results. Our mind doesn't need food, doesn't need clothing. All it needs to be is to be left in peace and be used for meditation. And so that's what would serve us much better, to be taking care of our mind. We take care of something that doesn't really deserve it, our body, and we don't take care of our mind, which would quickly take us to liberation.
That's all. Any Niba de Sansing Nola, Sinata, nothing Chita says, Ranchiva number, Demo Lockton to the Primacy. A dairy. And they get Julula, Nicosina Pimba me batang. Nola, any sinners in the Pimba me ba. That dairy do what about the Julula, Jumula, Nicoseva Pimba me bat. Niba de any Nola, nonsense in the Pimba me ba. The Dodo dairy. They do.
Secondly, since no matter how much greed and avarice you have for possessions and wealth, you will die naked and with empty hands. There is no benefit. So in the first line, we have this instruction to not keep attention and be attached to our body, this illusory, illusion-like body. And in the second line, we see the lack of benefit of any greed and covetousness towards wealth and possessions.
Loso. Any day, Sansing Nola Sinata, Napsin. And then the Sinasia, the Rangla, you Salikapsu Yin the Jimba Tongyatang, Mang in Hong Jimba Tomada, Ya control the Chuba Jamada. The Kanya Pechu Tangmada and the Sine Simdeachi, Yorwa Sinasia, Jung Secret, Jumba Simsia, Jung Siate, the Juzena, the same Martin. Then in Chang de Wadachi, the Senasi. Not Simsia, the tea taller, Sina tea taller, Taro, or Ying Jonola, or Colatin, Kambachimbo, Colatin, the Panjo Mambo, Alatenda, Yuna Saba, Kachimbo, down the Ying Jonola, not Seate. Or the Nichik Sina, the Napsen Katsi in the youngs. And Irani, Transhanin Drover Capsule. Lapatombalan Rogu Yuri, Tichuranka Sank Nola Senase, Tarunti Tola Yink Jonola, Napsen se deliteke, Churanga Pintogamari, Sumari.
So as much as we're attached to possessions and wealth, with our mind sort of dissolving into those things and holding tightly to them, and don't make offerings to the holy beings, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, that we don't make charity to the poor, those who could use it, then it serves no purpose. There's no benefit. In the case of greed, that means it's our own possessions that we just feel so tightly attached to that we can't let go of them, we can't give them, we can't offer them. And in the case of avarice, which might be better translated as covetousness, because that's when you look at the possessions of others and things that you don't own, and you think, oh, if I could only have that, if I could only get what they have, or what that is available. So in both these cases, obtaining those things at the time of death, we'll leave this life without them. There's no benefit to clinging and attachment to possessions and wealth. Next, we have this one, since no matter how much trouble you go into in the construction of castles and mansions, you will die alone, and your corpse will be thrown out the door. There is no benefit. So I'd like to tell a story about that.
Milarepa,
So Milarepa was there meditating in his cave. So Milarepa's sister was searching for him. She searched everywhere and she couldn't find him. So Milarepa's sister or aunt was traveling around destitute, looking for him, but she'd heard about a hunter who had said something, and so she went to look for this hunter. And this hunter had said that, one time when I was out hunting, I came across this being. I wasn't sure if it was a human being or a ghost, but when I asked it, it said, I'm a human being. I'm Milarepa. So she had heard about this. She was asking people, and so she heard about this hunter who had said this.
She is the beggar. She went to the one small village. They have the 5 or 6 people. So they talk about the Milarepa. They say, oh, yesterday we went to the mountain. We find the one very, the men. We asked her, are you gods? He said, I am not gods. I am Milarepa. They talk about each other. The sisters around there, she heard this. Then she went to ask them, people, you see the Milarepa? She asked them, they say, yes. He said his name is Milarepa, look like the gods.
So he'd become kind of like a skeleton. He was so emaciated.
Any moranga sana da pache te nga cho cho te sare samne any ti sacha the kawan do sike jatine any ti lam de zan any zan song is.
So she thought, well, that must be Milarepa. So she went to look for him.
Maybe he is my brother. She asked them where is the direction the Quran morality is.
So they gave her directions to find Milarepa.
Any song that this is done that is something done any approaching Nanani Milarepa. Any Guruna is and so gone down the yogi.
So there she found Milarepa sitting in his cave, looking like a skeleton.
Any Morape Sambachona, Jotachu, Tambo Moranga Topasan, and the Jojo in some Mari, Ajo in some Mari. Some any Milarepa, Naturanko Jojo yin, Milarepa yin, get a share. It's any Moraya Tad, yes, also is.
So when she first saw him, she thought, oh, this couldn't be my brother, but then he reassured her that yes, I am your brother.
Any Milarepa la, shoot the top Joala, Naraning, Hangba Tama, Junor Tama, may la pala shore. Any Narani doxa sighting the Yuma, Tada, Churan dollar chick Tada. When dollar chick Tada, Morang Pango, Chana Bay. To Lord Joe to the June, and in Aram means nearly dogs are sitting the chiga you marisita. And it is in Morang movies.
And she was so sad when she saw him, and she thought about their situation, how they'd had all of their possessions and wealth taken from them, and how he was emaciated and she was a beggar with nothing, and she cried and she was so sad. She said, there must be no one on earth who is in worse situation than us.
Any Milarepa that's Achachuran Simpango Maris, Nga Zupolatena Kurun Rawachi, Simlatena Sanjin Rawachi Yuris, any good mason is Nga Simlatena Sanjin Omada Chatsa use, Zupolatena Kurun Rajaris. Say number the gate chimbo mari, nang sim the Tochiari is on any good song is.
And Milarepa sang a song to her, in which he said that although my body looks like a skeleton, my mind is like a Buddha. And so he said, what's important is the mind. Body is not so important.
Then Milarepa Mada Achake Tamuranke Yashune. Oh, that Churanda Mune Namba Sanji Sandirim, those Churata Chupa Sandirim, Churang Muni new body, yes. Kawalatena, Churana Kala and Mendo, Churana Tolon and Mendo, Tamora Koramarang de Yura, Tolochiga Yumai. The Penny, a Karesigorichi, Karesigore, Jojo Tang, Jumo, Badeta 60, Yamdet in the Caps, Marang the Dana, Peng was up Segrita, Peng was out. But Chural and what had you the Mendos, Chural Zupola, Tolon Mendos, Kalasaya, Kalan Mendos. Churan no launch you Kayam Mendos, Churan number him Mendo, Churan Chubari Mendola race.
She said to Milarepa, now I know you're crazy. You don't look anything like a Buddha. This is not what a Buddha looks like. Neither of them had any clothing that they were wearing. And in Tibet, to be without clothing was something very kind of embarrassing or shameful. And so she said, you must really be crazy. You're look at us. You're not a Buddha. What do you mean?
Any Taborangate Lavi, Ta Mune Churang Lama Yapochina, Tadasi, Paralota Vandachi Goris. Captain the Paralota was in the Jala Pep, any Polama, Pecha Jern to the Sindela, get up a chimbo cup de do. Yore, any Tela, any Milarepa, Kijatin, Tela Carendo, Sidi, Kijati, Tela Pe Gumba Zipo, Kamba Pechimbo, Floma Contra Mambo. Rolly cups any well a dope. They the cups any singing Dean color, and didn't touch him because the boss at Any Joe, Pamjo, no longer hot chimondo. I'm nature lama chima in a paralos and that you go. Churan that tiny rimendo, that churan bed koran, chulo chan, chulo palason, Nuba cha yamato, number sanji chubari, mendoxine, yanja yakija.
She said, so sister again said, you're so mistaken. You know, if you were really a Buddha, you would be like Bari Lotsa. So Bari Lotsa was a Tibetan who had gone to India and brought back teachings and translated them and had become quite famous. He'd built a large monastery temple and Milarepa asked about it and she said, yeah, you know, he has thousands of students he's teaching, you know, he has a throne that he sits on, he has this canopy that he sits under. Says if you were really a Buddhist practitioner, a great practitioner, this is what you would look like, not like this, sitting, you know, naked in a cave.
Any Milarepa any telang gortine. That me ten that is Zua in a human ten that in Jungu using a Hako using a Duptuku use. Elang in Nimbo Kayam Mantone. Nimbo Kayam Mantone. Nimbo Kayam Mantone, it is what Samaji the Yokne. You see, Telatine, a tree young tapate. Tree young tapate, a chiki was on. All the song you receive.
And as Milarepa sang to her, he said, you know, I could have done those kinds of things, you know, but I saw them to be without essence, completely without essence and true meaning. And I, on the other hand, wanted to practice the Dharma purely.
That's all. Oh, the Risha, that they give at that Buddha Tola, some besim, Ubo Jetan Poch, Jetan he Pojan, she went to Pinto, Jam maybe Pimbamis. But Buddha Tolas, Buddha To, and in Namadang, the Sukola, Churange, some Ubo Kate, Churange Roba Kate Shiva in a young. Churan Chiva Caps, Churan Chipu, Rogo Uris. Then I'm Churan a Pingu Yomari, somebody.
The next he said, since no matter how many things you lovingly give your children, nephews, and nieces, on the day of your death, they will not have an instant's power to help you. So no matter how much you give to your children and nephews and nieces, on the day of your death, you have to go alone. You have to go alone, and they will not be able to help you at that time.
Any Nava de neither Tropola, Zedong Simjin, or some Jiniji said the Sang Ran Shiva number, you put Romi than the Pimbamis. What the Rana you need.
Since no matter how much attention and concern you lavish on family and friends, you will die alone without their company. There's no benefit.
I take neither Tropola, Nisia the Range, Nidang Gasala Sopa. Namet, Mother Nisia the Karange Pata, Mata, Namala Sopa. And it Tropola Sopa. The Sukola, Zedong, Simjin, or Song. Oh, that could no good. Call a what she got is samba chicken. The Kate Sena young, Jiniji Seba young, Ran Shiva Caps, should I keep on Rogo Uris, then I'll ping you, Mari, somebody.
It says, no matter how wonderful you think your relatives and friends are, on the day of your death, they will be of no benefit. They can't help you.
Lasso, any Buddha Tao Maya Matape Dag Jimbung about Dojang, the Waring Pimbamis, to Badeke. Not the Antiparisha.
So the next one is similar as well. Since even if you have many children, nephews, and nieces, they are impermanent. It is therefore certain that the things you give them will be abandoned. There is no benefit.
Lasso, only a cartang Sambalala image. I sent to you the email yesterday. Did you got it?
Lotus, got it.
Okay. That's the email Nantane. Oh, a carry live your sin and draw longer nanny. That thing a poet, Popa, the Boy, Tabong and Malaki. And Dean Antony Karishi can do Sibitani, Tama Matapari, Dom that Majawaina, Tama and Nimbo you marry, Tama Tapa you marry. But Tapa you marry, say the Tama Lutangorisiati. But Karisagorichi, Gubang Oma the Tapachi in the Kareri, Nimbo in the Kareri, say the Tane, Tambi Churangli, see that did all about you. Tambi Churangle Mato, she ni model Sukanka Pink Marisia. Yumsi Telatine. Any Dura Longanani, Sapa Kunjan, Tanze, and Tumbo Namjan, Talonga, Dupetan and Drawati, Stumbetan in Chawai, Gitangs, Rana Yin, Junjokanani, Jina Chipper change, Shin Chanatini, Chinchete, Dunga Yi Melina, Kizin Zave, Jessica, that they need a Chipan that Chichakado Tuesday. The Lungini, the Tinana Mala Yawaina.
So to illustrate, to explain the nature of impermanence, around which the point was, therefore, to practice Dharma is the only essential, really meaningful thing to do. Buddha said in the Vinaya scripture, the end of gathering is dispersing. The end of rising is falling. The end of meeting is parting. The end of living is dying. And as Shantideva said in the Guide to the Bodhisattva Conduct, in a similar meaning, at birth I am born alone, and at death I die alone. If others cannot share my suffering, why do I befriend those who obstruct me? So the point of pointing out this, of pointing out the impermanence of all things, is what was meant to encourage the practice of Dharma as being the only truly beneficial thing to do.
That's all. That take to body. Cindy to the subject Ngaritan, let Tablan Beto, Jinichi Sejang. Run Chiva number, Nathan Drava, Timmy the Roy, Pimbami. The body.
Next, since no matter how much effort you put into acquisition of property and authority and its execution, on the day of your death, your connection with your region will cease. There's no benefit.
Atendiri, Ranzo Dada Cindy to the tongue, Cindy to the la, any Cindy to the la, Unetane get that. Only Shibana, Cindy to the Naranzu Lekatama, the Cindy to the Lokodoa. A mambo chick that a chuchigi in security, shoot a lion, Cindy to the chuten Rokodoa, give us smith to the chuten Rokodo. Young mana, round the yin sama zopa sanji compound tabachi the chuten Rokodo. Shoot a number sumdoa. Shoot Tama the Cindy chiden Roko. Around three in a young. Mind chishu de chin di chi de rokodoa. Yung tin kan se na pe na me mambo chi nangba le yong ya de sen la kang an the ne kap chi la so chi kang a si je la chu de la nyam ni si. A che ting sang mai chishu chu ba sar ba mai chishu de chin di kang a la don ni chi de chu la pe chu da yan le ma do. Che small and jigne, on an ni song the dong rugri samba, tingy tala, jigne. What a union. The late young Netin di told the tree of what you say, Waina. Tingy de Lana made by young double Zopa Sanji, compound Tokundo, de Toaina, simply mambo to drip Tokundo Samba Jike. And Richige, Yindo Konalati, Namchik compound Toba, Yindo sheet, and Richig. Shukale Kabori. The name to turn a ming Chulatana young, the Vigi Chadek or Cindy to the Chadek or Tamat.
So we put so much effort into the concerns of this life. Even if we're practicing Dharma, there's different ways that Dharma can be practiced, and depending on the motivation. And largely people practice it for the sake of this life. They don't really think about what's going to be happening in future life, that they could help themselves not be born into worse states of being, but rather they're focused on problems and challenges in this life, and they got drawn to Dharma to try to alleviate those. And so much of their attention is practicing Dharma. We would say it's Dharma, but it's focused on this life and trying to make this life go well. And those who really think about what could happen in future lives and practice Dharma in order to for the welfare of their future life is rarer. And beyond that, for someone to be really thinking their motivation for practicing Dharma, that I want to attain enlightenment, full state of omniscience in order to be able to benefit all beings throughout space, is even more rare.
Oh, the dirija, the need to Zane, that's in this year, the Arantok Hachang. Sanji number Chuyong and Yaboji Samatawa in a Gond Shibanaji, Sapatamanze, Dipataman Tar, Supataman Jer. Any all the Dichike,
So,
the Yede, Samatawa ina. Mune Yaboji Samatawa in a Chitil Loka Hachi Chimboji, Jimago and the Chiride. 이내 ngaranzo jiwa thoma mi pani ti konshi shuk chenpo che du zane chen di dunda khona le ma do chi sma dang dele pha tha rin sala ene thar tu sanje je kompang thowa rang de yin yi ke dunda sanje je kompang thowa dele jang ka le kha bo cha du ya.
So this is why Buddha said this: the end of gathering is dispersing, the end of rising is falling, the end of meeting is parting, the end of living is dying. And because we put all of our attention into our current life, our accumulation of things, our rising to high positions and meeting friends and relatives and so on, all of this attention paid to this life compared to pure Dharma practice, which is focused on the attainment of enlightenment for the sake of all living beings.
Then jiba de ke tebe chugo shu ke chuji ma ji ne chuji lang song de yusi be pimba me is.
The next line is, since having entered the gate of Dharma through faith, if you do not conduct yourself in accordance with Dharma, it will cause lower migrations. So there's no benefit.
Yang kashi ji ke tebe chugo la shu na song de ta chu ji ngune chu ba yin sing anan zu chu du dang de che de din ba ji ma zong wa yi na. 去了地呢，都把啥呀当？去了地呢，点着头呀，你有个多啊？干些呢？去是呀的，还是有你不？那么也当看着，上去去跟顿，去个啷个这个，还是有你不咋亲不去行啥亲不咋呢？西当来当的车的地方就马上完赢了，你得了地呢，都把啥里人家就当，得了地呢，你给我啥里人家？ Then
in some cases, people will feel conviction and faith in the teachings and enter into them, attempt to practice them. However, if they don't practice them well, then this can become a cause for further ruin, because what we're relating to when we enter into the Dharma is something that's very sacred, very precious. The Buddha, Dharma, the Sangha, the Guru, the Yidam, Dakini, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, these very precious things. And if we don't act properly to them, towards them, then our negative actions can become even more powerful because of that which we're relating to, because it's in relation to such precious, blessed things. Compared to if we practice well, then we can create tremendous positive energy through having entered the door of Dharma.
Now,
next, since no matter how much Dharma you know, having trained your mind in hearing and reflection, if it is not practiced, you will have nothing by which to take death onto the path, there will be no benefit.
안디나니 아주 산지기 추대 남보 투바세 바르드 삼바세 타마 고바세 애니 곰테 타마 뉴몽 님볼란도네 애니 메히든 로고야지 차디유리 리임바 송장 투바다 삼바 곰바섬데 소리다 송네 메체 강보 투바세 투바 디드나 아니 책 코랑라 투바세네 책 코랑라 다 던데시네 로 망보지라 책 코랑라 아니 델레지니 지 투바세야 돼야 신이 투네 하고네 책잠 투네 인지기시는 knowledge 제한다지 레바낭 어떤 데지게 송대와 이나 핑크요 말이 아 담보 투바세 담보 대송다.
So the procedure in practicing Dharma is to hear the teachings, to think about them, and to meditate upon them. And when we meditate upon them, that is intended as antidotes or remedies for afflicted states of mind, of ignorance, greed, hatred, and so on. And if, on the other hand, we pay so much attention to the words, we become well versed in the words. We get it into our brain, we get knowledge of the teachings, but we don't apply them to ourselves in meditation and practice, then again, it will not be of benefit.
니인데자네 산지 좀 된데게 빅바지야 미자신 대완 부숨 초벌지 랑그센네 용선들 는 산지 땜바인지 랑그센네 사 나고 네스야들 빼고지치 뭐요 백코나니 그 드라지안니 심찌불은 더야와이나 르그섭다 두고 말에 나근 자착부시고 말에 저런 산지 땜바텔라 상대요.
So why do we study? In order to think about the teachings. Why do we think about the teachings? In order to meditate upon them. And why do we meditate on the teachings? To subdue the delusions, the afflicted states of mind. So this is the main point. That's why Buddha said, commit not the slightest non-virtue, but persevere in accomplishing perfect virtue. As for your own mind, subdue it. This is the teaching of Buddha. And in that third line, when Buddha said about the mind, he put a particle after it, ni, sem, which means mind, sem, ni. And that is a very important syllable there because it gives great importance to what comes before it, mind. And mind itself. Mind itself is what the practice is about. It's about subduing one's own mind, taming one's own wild mind. And so this is what Buddha was emphasizing there. This is the real practice of the teachings, not in talking, physical actions, but in the mind itself. So this is so important for us, whether we're new students or old students. So those three facets of listening or studying, contemplating, thinking about teachings, and then meditating on them. These three always need to be practiced in conjunction. This is the important point.
number chula lobjong sea gubate tang, Tindu lobjong sea gubate ni, bed kahari. Bed car. Number chuko lobjong gubang, mother carry citizen in a conto shiba nanji. Lobjong nangni, Nimbo dawala masona, gom de the tane, gom to chatune, Numong nimbola daya, Numong nimbola doyari. Tindu lobjong dan, lobjong daina, Sosin soy dang, Geda dang, any main dang, Pesha saya. Kasete tone in Rotwaina, Geda Yaya Lasso, but in the Chotoina, Rectayuri. Then you bet a card. Tata around number two of Lobjong te, Yaboja son of town, Chit the Mazawa ina. Nay, this in town delicates number Sabat, Sukoke, in Sanchi, Karisegorichi. A two sound Gomson Yonso of a chatang the Lloyd in the Chun Roma in the Zane, Tiba Jamba Sola. Tiba Jamba Nania, so sweet the down. 소순 고역직당 소순 매체직당 근데지기 체든 달마도 드니 파자주 마토와 어떤데 가신 통고 동시
So that real purpose of our listening to the teachings or so in studying the teachings, we call it study, is so different in the case of Dharma than it is in other fields of knowledge. When one studies the Dharma, it's for the sake of developing antidotes, remedies in one's own mind that will counter, subdue the delusions, the afflictions in one's mind. Other kinds of study are done for the sake of making money, maybe becoming famous, accomplishing things in the world are more externally directed. And this is something I see sometimes people, new practitioners or others that practice Dharma, but when you look for what it's really accomplishing, it looks like they're doing it for their own sake, for their own advancement, rather than actually enabling the study of the Dharma to really counter the afflictions in their own mind.
Lasso da Jubatinda, give shini dumper trong the young the day jang, Rangla tegumina, Goma yonting the slab mongo pimba means.
And next, since even if you remain for a long time in the presence of a holy teacher, if you have no faith and respect, you will not receive his qualities or blessing. There's no benefit.
Ade Garang the Pena, give shini lama chick trong the yorum la dene. Yorum la dene. Kurang lama de la yoring trane. Hacha true colossal. Pena tanya trane. Any lama in Zeba the Juba and Tonju Mang Tran, the Zan Cham Chana Lama de Tambe Yonti Lasso, but the Mantonga Chiene, Lama de Lani, Chi Deba Meva Tang. All the young secret, Pena Sanjik and the Son Euro. Nga Tarin Bullet de Yali Metetang, Nga Sani Tanyos in the Metecom, Yam the day de Tenila, Salap the Sulan Yugurisina. Slap the Tarum all the day, the metal sugar is. You think I say now, tiny all the what dead and oh, Taquarical and Chip, oh, good day to the love, good and the chiggering, a Katan Tonson, Kanya Tonsa say and that you Taquarical and Chip there. Sanjak sit down Zeba the Juba the Taqua regular. The day did it on it, and it tell the Batang Karasaguri chick the day. Kale Kapori is on you. Tarum bullet day, Yanni Metake. Lama June bochin jigger mewa in the Tane, any Buguse, Tebase, Tendese de Capsule, and the Tawarekula slap the Tilling Juguris. Lama Rina, Lama Nina, Lama Rinsia Dachi. Oh, they much.
But sometimes staying in the presence of a spiritual master can become a disadvantage. We become too close to them. We project too many of our own deluded thoughts on them, thinking, oh yeah, they did this and that, and I think of them as quite ordinary, and then even possibly lose faith in them. Whereas someone who is living at a distance from them may be able to much better maintain a sense of faith and devotion and remembering their good qualities, longing for them, and so on. And so when Buddha was asked, who will receive the blessings, he said those who are at a distance will receive blessings, great blessings, and those who are close may not. So sometimes it's said that the far disciples are close, and the close disciples are far.
Oh, there is that. Nani give shini seate. That sangha tula give shini theta dimban shini dimba haja kale khaborita. Pekale khabor.
So these days it's extremely rare and difficult to have and to find a fully qualified spiritual master.
Ngarangda ina tapa rechilachi kiwa jima meiliti. The Towa ina yancher give shini theta dimbachi. Te show sambaka mona tapa rechila. Then to kinchi. The Hindutane, Chiranambaki in a the Sukola some of other. I gave it she said the bear masits archibo, Gachimbo. Haja Gachimbo. Haja Gachimbo. When it Tabatu near Tabatu the near Kinji in his own day, I gave it she said the bear archibo.
So I always make a prayer that in my future life, I'll be able to have a human life with and be able to meet fully qualified spiritual masters. And because this is so important for anyone who really seeks liberation and enlightenment, to make a prayer to always in our future lives to be able to be with qualified spiritual masters.
You think I say now, Tinsang Numa Dovitus, Numumba, Tawa, Tse, Tu, Anza, the Nichik Numa Dovitus. Lakpot to Rami Shitsaki, Tinsangtus, Dinania, the slogan Lumban, the Nichik Nani. I give Shini at the Bear Masi Kalekabo. Tatelecha Lopo give Shini Haja Mamboji, that is sung. Give Shini Lopa Segonandra, give Shini Juma Segonandra. I think some Haja Mambori doa. The legit Dani Jimboke, any Mulamji, Tomtama, Tomta could give a Mulam Tiganani. Mulam just on you. Then a tapa making the Goa. Tupu Gumba to the Sesop, Tachitawa, Timbersi Papo, Megishini, Dipatronam, Wangdan Namni, Wangdan Namian, Rowan Major. He the master, I'm not tanka. He wanted Serakunde, young Tapa gave it in Jason Timbari. Lopo gave it in Jason Namia Mandawa, Sina Molanda with the Jidani Chimbe Mona Son Yajiri. The majority.
So particularly in these times of five degenerations, where the beings, delusions, the spiritual view, lifespan, and so on are very coarse and declined. The times, it's even more difficult to find fully qualified spiritual masters, and in fact, it's quite easy to find unqualified teachers and teachers who would misguide us. And so that is why that Tsongkhapa made the prayer, may I never come under the influence of harmful association with non-virtuous guides who teach philosophies of permanence or nihilism contrary to the meaning of Buddha's intentions. So Tsongkhapa himself made this prayer that in all of my lifetimes, may I always meet with qualified teachers of Buddha's Dharma and not ever come under the influence and be of false guides or unqualified guides.
Rinpoche song to so pe salap chimbore do wa chiran se yabo ji nyam yeb nang da wa nga chui na
So these words of Jetsong Khapa are extremely blessed for us to hear and to recite.
pe na me yimba chi ke lopo gevi shi ni kin chini cho se ona ta khande de na lopo gevi shi ni se ate pe ta chi da ha ma o wan da dang yang chi ta khande de na sam de wan da chi thde chi ga tan di na ni lopo gevi shi ni kin chini tam chi de ga thup gong ba ton le ser so pe ta che ta wa tun prasi ba po de lopo gevi shi ni kin chini le yang do wa thup pa sa ji chom din de ka ma so wa ke chu che 상지 좀 된데 그 마성와 그 취지 가시 송위와 이나야 될라 아니 한바다 포추 그 토네 그런 거 라서세 깨자 희네 아니 덤벨럽 상지 그 마성와다 상지 그 송라 론데시야다 상지 그 마성와 깨자 희야 라서 봐 특별 공부 돈을 쓸수 봐 송도 상지 좀 된데 그 공부는 틀데리 찍게 내 남자 준데 대티야 띵게요 말한서 자 침보시 시고야 요 말에 사제 좀 된데 그 송가를 송나 티나 신세나 로마치를 핑고나라 니를 핑고나라 사제 그 까이나 이 마송 야와이나 대랑 아주 주고야 요 말에 제고야 요 말에 리나니 대송도와 개비신이 로퍼 개비신이 그 신이 야한데 신이 티나 창들에 특별 공부 돈을 쓸수 없다 치다와 뜸버시 바보도 로퍼 개비신이 그 신이 어떤데리도 다 Rinpoche song de la pe masi pa sur chimbo ani jabyong ge goje chimbo yo de wa ani song to so yong su to pa cha ma san je ge ka la ya khong thu de wa de na ne khorang ka lam ju ge za de de ni za ni jie ba se ne o pe salap chimbo ri ya.
So sometimes we might wonder, what is an unqualified guide? Maybe it's somebody that just doesn't know much about the teachings. But here we have some very specific guidelines that Jetsong Khapa gave, which was basically to teach something that's not Buddha's teachings, to give some teachings that are outside of Buddha's teachings, for instance, the view of permanence or nihilism, or to be giving teachings in a non-virtuous way, say for self-advancement or for improper motivations. So when Jetsong Khapa writes, it's extremely potent. He explains very clearly what is the non-virtuous guide here, someone who's teaching outside of Buddha's teachings, someone who's not really following the Buddha's teachings, and his teachings always, meet back to the source of Buddha's teachings and make sure that they correspond with Buddha's actual intentions. So these are very blessed words, Jetsong Khapa's writing.
Any lames have to churana yongo yo maris, that tambo gave shini, lopo gave shini chilla mantewashi, young tapo gave shini, sim sali jabs, the jison jo sali cabs, and it tell us sanji muk teba yane, Dorjin chang mulatane, the Nichisi goris. Jumsi kain sena, churank teba ya goris seateke, churank teba yana gave shini the young pond royata, teba mayana man royati, gave shini la chongra or keja mari. 대바지 유아이나 추라를 캡상 빼치 뭐지 lep기다. 그런 산제 이나인다 미나인다 개비 신이데 추랑 그 대바지 자자와이나 추랑을 빼 마시 캡상 침보지라 해요. 아티 줌신데 제바 만보시야요.
So that's with regard to not coming under the influence of a non-virtuous guide. But even if we have a qualified guide, spiritual guide, and if we don't develop faith, conviction in them, devotion, gratitude, towards them, we won't be able to receive blessings through them. So this kind of faith we're talking about is to be able to see that guru as a Buddha, as an actual Buddha. And this has nothing particular to do with who the spiritual guide is, except that they are qualified, but it has to do with us. Because if we can see Buddha in that teacher, we'll receive all the blessings of the Buddhas through that teacher. So it's a huge benefit that we will receive, which we won't if we don't have that kind of perception.
Huma Kagyu lama shang Rinpoche si yore teke huma de ta loma huma ani lama teke Kurang loma chike ta ngala tereng lama chike selap chi naro chi ngala selap chi naro chi ya yuri ani lama teke loma de lama zikdene oh ta churang ngala mugi chi naro chi ngala mugi chi naro chi song the jumjin kare song ko yori si de tani churang la ngone saja chi be toba de tu yule chi wa ka selap che de ba chi gowa ina churang la tambo mugi chi me wa ina lama la mugi me wa ina churang la yong ko ma ri tambo churang la mugi yue si ya.
So one time there was a Kagyu Lama named Lama Shang Rinpoche, whose disciple was asking him, please bless me, please give me blessings. I want to realize Mahamudra. And the Lama said to him, do you have faith in me? Because he's pointing out that if we have faith and devotion in the Guru, then we will receive the blessings. But without those, we can't receive any blessings. So here we'll stop for today. So we'll take questions next time if anyone has some. We'll not do that today.
Pande tsawe lama rinpoche taki chiworo peme deshu kati chembe kone jesone kuson toki ngudu zetu so. Omso te ramjan kyamne gyatsu chenla tan denye tende luwa mebet. Yebara chime tseye la tso ki tsewa yeshe chingche tingere. Yebe chenle ka ken kama pe kasu donga chazo mengach. Ome sewe lamta nyamdo ki yunde tseka getere shabdes. Kanki sansum doje rankam su lekwara tenje longto tambej. Shidu tusan gombe dude yisade gembe chinle tachin shu. Bande lame nambara tarba la kiji samya lota mikesh. Chinze lekwara tongwe megu ki lame chinla semla juba shu. Kewa kundu yangda lama tangje me chuki pela longchuchi. Sata lamke yunde rabzo ne pade lame kopanyo to shu.
O glorious and precious root Guru, please take seat of lotus at my crown. Caring for me in your great kindness, please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind. Om Swasti. May the blessings of infinite seas of our places of refuge, the force of the two truths' infallible interdependence, and especially the hosts of deities of immortal well-being, now rain down the magnificent splendor of their wisdom and power of longevity. The Lord of the dance of all victors' enlightened activities, Karmapa, your unquenchable thirst for the inner essence of his tradition's doctrine of discourses, tantras, great seal, great perfection, and pith instructions, has brought the qualities of signs on the spiritual path, your experience and realization to their full flowering. May your life be firm. May the wisdom mysteries of your body, speech, and mind be as perfectly firm as the Vajra's own immutable elements. May your gatherings of disciples who study and practice the sacred teachings of scripture and realization by listening, contemplation, and meditation cover the earth. May your activity reach its ultimate consummation. May I never for an instant develop wrong views of the glorious Guru's life and deeds, but with devotion seeing all they do as excellent, may the Guru's blessings enter my mind. In all lives, may I never be parted from qualified Gurus, enjoy glory of Dharma, and by perfecting all qualities of the paths and stages, quickly attain the state of the glorious Guru.
Najin Simjin Tamje Lo Jusan Do Vara Sinja Labda Sora Julam Den Do Vara Sinja Labda Sora Lantrum Bas Vara Sinja Labda Trabayi Sinja Vara Sinja Labda So Daso Namje Chudan Timbaye Jedar Sambaye Yin Bada Nedonki So Bade Jibezo Nyevara Shevara Sinja Labda So Lexo. Muchas gracias. Jampa Tharchin. 그런 그 인지당 아니 보게면서 시급이랑 애 인지당 보게다 스페니치 썸식이 요르다.
네, 탐제.
자, 스페니치 시기 왜?
Muchas gracias.